connections between each of the topic areas. So that's really the purpose of us kind of re-emphasizing and repeating some of the information. So just wanted to put that out there. Let's go ahead and jump in, okay? Topic 2, the objectives here, questions rather, that we are going to make sure we address is, how is health information accessed, okay? How are the systems used in healthcare information technology? What are the standards for exchanging healthcare information? How are healthcare IT systems integrated? And how does e-health technology globalize medicine? So in our discussion tonight, that's what we're going to focus on. The first question that we're going to attempt to answer is, how is health information accessed? When we think of how we access health information, one of the things that we currently, most of us probably use, are patient portals. I went to the doctor a few weeks ago, had a test, signed into the patient portal to get my test results. That's one way that we utilize EHRs, because the EHRs are what is feeding that patient portal. But other systems within the healthcare organization, legacy systems, older systems, are being replaced by these more efficient, these more interconnected business systems that allow for that increased access. Supply chain management, customer relationship management system, that's where the patient information is housed. Enterprise resource planning, that's your BI or your business intelligence information or software, okay? The supply management piece allows us to understand the management of the information throughout a supply chain, so that we can make sure we're using our information, or we are using our information in an effective manner, excuse me. Um, we want to make sure that using that information, we are able to optimize service quality, right? Improving our flow processes. We want to make sure that we are increasing efficiencies. Using the information to help drive that process or drive those processes and help us make decisions is key. Customer relationship management. Who are we serving? How should we better serve them, or could we better serve? How do we maximize revenue generation? In order for us to do all of that, we need to understand the who. This is how a lot of healthcare systems are able to send out surveys and try to record information for those individuals who have been discharged from the hospital. They tap into their customer relationship management system, or they have external parties do that for them, randomly, of course. But we are able to capture information as a result of using the information or the data that we already have housed within the healthcare system. Okay. Enterprise resource planning, an attempt to integrate all departmental and functional processes throughout the enterprise into a single integrated HMIS. If you see a theme here, you should be seeing that efficiency. How can we improve efficiency? How can we make our services better? Okay. How can we streamline what we're doing currently? Enterprise resource planning. Remember, I said that's your business intelligence piece. These are systems that are designed with the purpose of helping you figure that out. Okay. Electronic health records. The health information of an individual patient that exists as a part of a complete history. Remember, I said the electronic health record is what feeds the patient portal. It's not that you have access to the entire healthcare record, but that patient portal is designed to extract specific identifiers and information from the electronic health record, so that, one, you can have access to that, right, and be more aware. But the electronic health record is supposed to provide a complete picture of your history, a complete picture of your health status at any time or whenever it's accessed by a physician. Last week, we kind of talked about how there were hiccups with the implementation of the electronic healthcare records, in that the accessibility was an issue when the electronic healthcare records were first implemented. What wasn't realized before implementation was that um, you had to have the same systems in order for that communication and that exchange to take place. As a result of that not happening, all of these standards and exchange mechanisms and interfaces had to be put in place to ensure that communication was aligned, and that the information that was being exchanged in a secured manner, and that it was the information that you were looking for. Okay. Last week, we also talked about the CPOE, or the Computerized Physician Order Entry System, as an application included by request and by payment into the EHR system. This is where the physician goes into to enter information about your care. What do they want? What do they feel you need? Right? Computer-based decision support system. This is a application that is used to help with the standardization of care. The standardization of care is responsible for the elimination of duplicate processes, more efficient processes, decrease in cost. And so there is not a reason for three physicians with patients with the same type of identifiers and same conditions to have three different treatment plans. And so the computer decision support system helps to account for some of this, using general queries and specific questions about the conditions of patients, and using that information and algorithms help a uniform choice to be made for the care of that patient. Okay. Efficiency. We still see the theme of efficiency here. Okay. Some of the benefits here: direct patient care, continuing patient care. Before many of these processes, there were breaks in patient care. Patient would leave the physician, leave the hospital, not have any follow-up care. EHRs and the improvement in the communication between organizations has eliminated some of that, improving legal compliance, research, decrease in costs, as well as improving patient safety, which is always, always a top priority, right? A few of the challenges. It's complex. It's definitely not easy to have many of the new systems. And then you have to learn how to use those systems and learn how to make it work for you while being in compliance with your organization, right? The lack of standardization. Remember, we talked about the issues with the interface and the exchange of information. The lack of motivation in creating interoperability, and uncertainties about the direct benefit. So even when implementation was close to being mandated in 2014, because in 2014, that's when they started incentivizing the implementation of EHRs in order for the eventual mandate of the electronic healthcare record. Um, Many organizations just didn't feel like it was best for them. They felt like the paper method was still going to work, even regardless of the that we have identified as a result of using papers, doctors' handwriting, adverse information being entered incorrectly that led to adverse events. There were still many who questioned the benefits of this. Okay. So now we've talked about the systems. What are the standards for exchanging that healthcare information? Okay. As the exchange of information continues to increase at a rapid pace, organizations have been formed to help with that. So, what these organizations have done is not only do they have created regulations and rules to help with the exchange of information, but some of them have also helped to create languages to help with that interface, right? To help with the translation or to help that request be better understood by the computer system, okay? One of these organizations that we're going to talk about is the Community Health Information Network. So, this was a combination of telecommunication and networking capabilities that link healthcare stakeholders throughout a community. Ultimately, this was an interface, a network, or an organization that created an interface for healthcare organizations within a specific community, right? Meaning, let's ensure that I may not be able to communicate with the healthcare provider my patient is seeing um, while they're visiting the state of California, but at least let's make sure that within the 50-mile radius of our healthcare office, we can exchange information with one another. One, remember to help with that continuum of care so there aren't any breaks in care, and to ensure patient safety and to ensure that the needs of the patient is being met. What we'll see is the evolution of the Community Health Information Network to the Regional Health Information Network. So, a more expansive network ultimately um, to tap into. Okay, same commitment, improving the quality, safety, and access for patients, right? And efficiency of healthcare through the use of health information technology. Okay. These networks were designed to move healthcare information efficiently and inexpensively. Okay. Barriers and successes. Always barriers, always successes. Some of the barriers are financial sustainability. These regional health information networks were primarily nonprofit organizations, and for many nonprofit organizations, financial sustainability is a challenge, especially when this is the charge that you've taken on. This is an expensive endeavor, first of all, but when this is your charge, um, sustainment is key, and that's not always possible. Okay. Long-term success, sustained leadership. In the nonprofit organization, the tenure for leadership when compared to for-profit organization is longer. Um, in these rhinos, what they did was review best practices in other regions and they implemented them there so that they could ensure that adherence, ensure the alignment, and ensure similar outcomes, hopefully. And that's the point of best practices. Um, and then the assessment of regional needs and capabilities. What does your organization need? What does your area need, rather? Okay. Understanding that definitely helps with your mission. Okay. HL7, this is one of the organizations that I was talking about, able to develop an international interface, an international language to help with the collaboration and standards for data exchange at a greater level, beyond that community level and beyond that regional level. Okay, so if you see that, understand that it's a element as well as an organization, but primarily for our purposes, an element that helps with the interface and the interoperability of the information that we're trying to exchange. Okay. The goals of the HL7 stimulate and encourage domain experts from the healthcare industry, right? Remember, one of the challenges we had was slow motivation for interoperability. Well, once we found a way to help make it interoperable to increase the ability to interface, then of course more individuals were encouraged because they knew it was possible. They knew it was work. They knew it would work. Okay. Then collaborate with the healthcare IT users to ensure that the HL standards meet real world requirements, not fantasy IT world, real world requirements, the security of patients, exchanging that information, data stewardship, making sure you have the data at the right time, right place to the right person. Okay. All of this leads to the integration of healthcare IT systems, right? The standards that have been put in place are all meant to improve the interoperability of this information and the successful exchange of this information. Okay. Some of the issues encountered, there are dozens of different patient record systems. So remember how, I said that one of the early issues with the EHR, the electronic healthcare record system, was you couldn't really engage in the exchange aspect if you didn't have the same systems. Okay. And then even within a single system, there's several different single healthcare systems, single organization. You have several different systems being used. So this was a major barrier that these interfaces helped to eliminate or mitigate for many organizations. So some of the interoperability issues encountered were different database management systems, different programming language. HL7 helped address that. And that's not the only programming language, but it's one of the most prominent programming languages. And then you have different system platforms. So one answer to the different system platforms was you had organizations adopting web-based service health information systems. And they weren't married to a specific platform because they were like tapping into a cloud almost. We hear a lot about the cloud now. That's what was going on. Okay. Um, the interoperability strong because you weren't married to a system or really a language. And when you would talk about reducing or the time to develop your systems or develop your coding, all of that information was recyclable. So it reduced the time that you would have to invest in developing your code. And it was not as complex. These are some of the features and factors that allowed for the globalization of medicine. Okay. When I think of globalization of medicine, I definitely think of creating access that once wasn't there for many individuals. Okay. Improving access to care within populations, improving the quality of care. Because through these methods, telecare, telemedicine, telehealth, e-health, you've made something available to a population that once was not available. Okay. What we want to make sure we understand is that each of these build on one another. They possess many of the same components because they are all encompassed into e-health, right? So, for example, telemedicine is inclusive of telecare. Telehealth is inclusive of telemedicine and telecare. And e-health includes all of these: telehealth, telemedicine, and telecare. Okay. So when we look at this visual, we are able to see that they are inclusive of one another. Okay. So a few things I want to make sure that you know from this topic. What are some of the major HMIS enterprise software? We talked about CPOE, we talked about CDSS, and even in the acronyms format, make sure you know that stuff. There is a resource document in the course resources, which you can access from the homepage of the course by going to the tips or the announcement section. Why would it be or not be beneficial to combine a supply chain management and a customer relationships management into a single system? We discussed what each of those systems were, but let's look at the pros and cons if we were to do something like that, okay? Why might it be important to link EHR to the CPOE and the CDSS? Okay. Why is user resistance, particularly from physicians and nurses, often considered as the greatest obstacle to successfully implementing patient-centric management systems? And then what are the benefits for healthcare consumers of PHR, personal health record, versus the EHR? Remember we said we tap into the patient portals, that's your personal health record. Does this imply that EHR can simply be replaced with PHR or both systems may be necessary? Okay. Okay. The application of the healthcare management information system, it had been slow, right? But when we discuss, the interfaces and the commonalities in the language and the improved interoperability, it definitely has picked up since then. Okay. There's a great need for these systems to be accepted and appreciated by healthcare administrators because it does have the ability to provide and offer more insight as far as decision making is concerned. Okay. Challenges and concerns such as privacy need to be resolved. Has some of this been resolved? Absolutely. But are there still issues? Yes, there are. EHRs can replace the myriad of data repositories in today's healthcare. We can have a single house or single place to house this information. Okay. Increasing awareness of the organization to reconceptualize its business and services, as well as the need to adopt a new corporate culture of data sharing. Okay. These are key in health management information systems, the sharing of data and how that can lead to transformation. Okay. But it also requires the continuing development of standards, process improvement. All right. Any questions or concerns about anything that we have discussed?